All right, beautiful. So now that we have constructed our, let's say, linear array of our point, we can actually populate that with actual geometry. Now, like I said, we will use this now, these points, to locate our flow slabs. And the way that we could do this is by simply taking in one closed curve option. Now we have different options for that, and I want to quickly show you that. So if you go to curve, let me just quickly pull that off so you can actually see it's curve here. You have different sets of components that you can use that are all clustered under the big group curve. And there's one tab which is primitive. You can just go here and you can see that there are, like, let's say, primitive ways of constructing a curve or simple components that help you to draw a curve. And you can see in orange, the components marked in orange will actually construct you those simple curves, closed curves that we want to use actually now. Now you can use a circle, you could define that, you could define an ellipse, an arc, a rectangle. What we actually want to do is use the polygon, because that will enable us to use that to define what the shape is of this flow slab and to have a little more control over that. And I'm just going to use the polygon, so just click on that. You could also just simply type in polygon and you will get that component. That's the beauty in Grasshopper also, that you can just be very fast. Just go here and just type in your command and it will just appear. You press enter, it will be placed. And now I'm going to shrink this window so we actually see our command here, or actually see our viewport in Rhino. And as you can see, what happened, that this guy actually already placed a geometry into my Rhino canvas, right? And this is because this again has some default settings. So this has default values that it takes if nothing has been supplied and just generates an overall shape in the first step. And this guy actually has 4 different inputs. We will look at that, of course, and has 2 outputs. You will get a geometry, which is a polygon, a closed curve, and you will get the length of that curve. Now, to understand the inputs, we can just say that we have polygon base plane. And the polygon base plane is, as the name implies, a plane that you give in to locate its center point. And that is the crucial thing, that before we go to the other steps, I want to first of all demonstrate that. Right now it's set to, as you can see in the default setting, to world XY, which is my location of my origin plane here in Rhino. XY plane here. And it's located at the location 000. That's my world top XY construction plane. If I now just put in my points that we have constructed before into my P, I will supply a different list of planes that those polygons are now being drawn on. So instead of 1, I will get 200 automatically just by supplying a list of different planes, which are translated here by the input of points. And at each point location, that's why we did that actually, we will now have also a default polygon drawn, which has the same values right now for the R, S, and RF, but will have the location that we actually want that to have. And as you can see, if I just again zoom out, we have our sliders. I can again play with that and just, define parametrically how many floors I want to have right now. So let's go back to 100. And of course, the stepping also has an effect. And this is the nice thing, that you can also change everything upstream in your script. So now what we want to do is actually understand a little bit more about the other inputs. So this polygon here has the input radius. Radius is basically what's the radius of my polygon, right? So that means that this will define the width of the overall shape. What I could do now is to define a slider, but this time I want the slider to have a range. I don't want to just simply type in a number only, but I want to say, okay, this slider should go from 0 till 50. And that's its domain. It can't go, or it can't exceed that. And the way to do that is very nice, actually. You just type in your minimal value, which is in this case 0. Then you say smaller than, and then you say 50, which is your max value. And you just press enter, and your slider now is set to that domain. Now you don't have to do that by double clicking on this slider input here. You double click that, you will get the pop-up window, and you can now go here actually and do it yourself again. You have of course more control. You can of course control the rounding of your value. So you could say it's a float value actually, and it has to the comma of 3 values behind the comma. You could say it's an integer, so you can also say it's even numbers, you know, so 2, 4, 6, etc. You could also say odd numbers, so 1, 3, 5, etc. Let's just keep it to integers right now. And then again, you can see here currently my domain. We have limited that to min and max, and you can see a numeric value, my current number. You can also just give this a different name, so that is always interesting to see. So let's say this will control my floors, right? So I can just type in my floor radius. So that is the name of this component. I just say okay. I got this now displayed here, and I hook it up to my radius, and straight away you can see something will happen, that you can now stretch those polygons given your radius. Just leave it for now here. We will come back to this in a second. And what we want to see also is the other inputs. So let's look at the S, for instance, is the segments. Now segments is currently set to 6, a default value, which will give you this hexagon, right? Now we want to again define a range to play with this. And the most important thing to understand is that you have to have a minimal set of segments to generate a closed curve, which is 3. A triangle. You can't just do 2 because that would be a line, and this will not be a polygon then. So we can just test that. I will just type in 2 and supply that, and this should give you an error message, and it's telling you polygon must have at least 3 sides, otherwise it won't work. So if I just hook it up or slide it to 3, you will see now we have constructed triangles. So this, as you can see, controls how many segments you can generate or you will generate with your component. You can have triangles, rectangles, pentagons, hexagons, etc. And that's a nice thing why we're using this, because we can play with that, and you can also just customize that for yourself as you go along this tutorial. Now, what we want to do is just to get used to actually type this, I will double click and say 3 smaller than, let's say 8. That's my numeric domain right now for my segments. And usually what happens if you put in something for your inputs, a slider for your inputs, it will usually take over a name that is given by the input itself. So it has called your segments, and the slider is intelligent enough to understand that and will be written as segments. So you can leave that, but if you're not happy with that and you want to be a little bit more precise, just double click on that guy and just change the name. Or you just go to the segments here and just say right mouse button, and you can type a name here also. Okay, I'm just going to leave it as segments. And the RF is the fillet radius. Now this is very nice also. So I'm going to change my segments to be, let's say, pentagons, as you can see here. And I want to now fillet them at the corners. You can do that by this component also. And you just have to supply a number. And now you have to be careful to understand what your radius is for your fillet. So let's just type in 0 to 20. And I just hook it up to my RF. It will now say fillet radius, which is good. I take off my sliders and you will get this widgets here. You can just press on this guy, which will align them. If you want to already start aligning your sliders, you can do it so. And if I now go to the slider and just start to crank up my values, you can see how this form has been filleted at the corners, right? And this is a very nice feature which you can then basically control and use to alter your shape. Let's leave it at 10, the radius 10 right now. And of course you have to be careful if you go down with your floor radius, this will also affect your fillet radius. So we want to put this maybe down again. So you can also, if you want to make it a little more interesting and more professional, your script, you can hook this up into relevance to your floor radius, so that my fillet radius is always somehow connected to my slider, which controls the radius overall. Now, a simple way to do that, for instance, just to show you quickly, is to use a very simple division method. So let me just type in division. You will need this guy here, division. You can also find it, Control Alt mouse, under math and operations. And I will just take this guy and divide it by, let's say, 10. So I just type in 10. And I will now get 3. as a fillet radius, just to show you that you could hook it up. And now you can just get rid of this guy. And if you change your overall floor radius, this is always somehow the same kind of radius because you have supplied a division that controls the fillet radius. So let's keep that for now here. Of course, you could change that in a different set, but let's actually continue on. Now we have done that, which is very good. I can also put off my points if I don't want to see them anymore by using again Control Q as a shortcut, and this will just hide them. And I am resulting now with my polygons, basically my overall tower, which already looks somehow like a tower. And you can of course again go here and control that. Now let's quickly just change something here. I want to go to my count and I want to change the name. So the way that I will do this is I will double click on the count itself on this more grayish area here. And I want to change the count. So I want to first of all say the name has to be more precise. I want to say number of floors, right? And I want to also say that my max domain is not 1000 because that's a very, very high tower. And let's say the maximum of floors that we can actually generate right now is 300. Yeah, so 300 is okay. And I'm fine with that. I can now just simply say okay. And you can see straight away the name has been applied. I can take all the sliders and just push them a little bit away. And I want to also say step. This is not actually correct. I want to say here, this time I'm going to use a different method. Just going to go to my darker area here where actually the name has been written. Say right mouse button. And in this area, I'm just going to type in now the name. So I'm going to say floor height. Enter. And as you see, we now have a better understanding of what these sliders actually do. And this is just linked to my overall fillet radius. So I could just also say here, fillet radius factor, for instance, yeah, just to indicate that it is not only just controlling the fillet radius, but it is actually some kind of a logic that is reference to maybe another slider. Okay, now we have set it up all nicely. We have our sliders here. We can also just select all of the sliders, and a very nice feature is this align method. So if you just click on this on the upper side, this will align them in the, let's say, in this X direction or whatever direction this is currently here, but you will have the same spacing of the sliders, and you can just move them away a little bit here. So you always have this control panel here, right? Everything you do, you can control with these sliders. Okay, very good. Let's continue on. Hi, I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, please feel free to leave a comment, a like, and most importantly, subscribe to this channel. Also note that this video is part of a 13-hour-long online tutorial series called Algorithmic Skyscraper Design. You can find it on my e-learning platform, Design Upgrade. That is courses.design-upgrade.com. To get access to all online courses, just sign up and secure yourself an all-access membership. Choose one of the many courses available with one new added course each month. In the Algorithmic Skyscraper Design, I will take you from zero to hero for practice-based visual scripting inside Rhino. Learn also to create advanced environmental simulations and design user interfaces with Grasshopper. So see you there, and let us make some design upgrades.